at fullback, the captain, Hancock, Craig Hancock on one wing, Danny Moore, Terry Hill, the centres, John Hapawati on the other wing, Cliff Lyons at 5'8", Des Hasler halfback, Nick Kosef at lock forward, Solomon Pomono in the second row for Ian Roberts alongside Stephen Menzies, and the front rowers, Mark Carroll, Owen Cunningham currently at hooker, and also David Gillespie. The Dragons in enemy territory, Chris Quinn at fullback, Ian Heron on the wing, Mark Coyne, the captain, alongside Graham Bradley in the centres, Jeff Orford, the other winger, Anthony Mundine at 5'8". Noel Goldthorpe played very well last week at halfback. Tony Smith locked forward. Scott Goulet and Dave Barnhill the second rowers. Jason Stevens, Nathan Brown and Tony Priddle. Blonde-headed Nathan Brown. You can't miss him on the field. That's exactly what Manly, they won't want to miss him today either.
You mentioned Stephen Menzies, hasn't he? Been in great form since he came back from the Kangaroo tour. A lot of people, of course, talk about the Kangaroo curse, players not aiming up after a Kangaroo tour, but Menzies has certainly been the opposite of that. He's been in fantastic form, and I'd have to go as far to say, at this stage of the season and from what we've seen in the last 12 months, I think Steve Menzies deserves to be rated as probably the #1 second row of the game at the moment.
Big call, but I can't think of anyone I'd put in front of him. Referee is Eddie Ward, and away we go from the boot of Noel Goldthorpe. And Pomono traps it and comes straight back and bursts through the tackle of Goulet. That's not the St George start that Brian Smith wanted. Goulet missed him cold. Carroll powers forward. Look at the difference in season points. In the 4 column, Manly 236, St George 116 against Manly 74. Tells the story, St George have conceded 162.
Well, there it is, the traditional penalty. Early up by the referee to assert who's boss. Just hanging in there too long on Mark Carroll. I think it was Jeff Orford, the winger. So Manly on the attack. Good start for the Eagles.
Just getting back to the season points, I don't think you can argue the dominance that they show Manly has had in attack and defence. However, you have to qualify it by the standard of opposition. St George have met more top 8 teams so far. First, not the first penalty, but the first scuffle of the match. In comes Eddie Ward.
Yeah, a bit of a right-hander then, I think, on Dave Gillespie. Cement gives an answer back. Tony Priddle being called out. Be interesting to see this on the replay, what actually happened. There it is, the tackle. And Tony Priddle comes in late here. There he is there. Comes in with a little bit of an elbow to the cheekbone. Not much in it, but certainly uncalled for. And a good penalty by Eddie Ward, and Dave Gillespie a little bit upset, as he would be.
Brave play by Priddle to try and upset Cement. We might be watching for him as the game progresses for the square-up.
Yes, and he's one bloke who can probably square up pretty well, Cement, isn't he, over the years? Very tough defender.
The thing is, he can square up legally. Some blokes, the only way they know is to try and take someone's head off, but wouldn't want to be looking for him for 80 minutes of football.
I think it's important that St George don't come up with too many plays like that, because I think against Brisbane they got a little bit too aggressive in the early parts of the game a couple of weeks ago, and they really left their brains in the dressing room. They had plenty of aggression, plenty of enthusiasm, but unfortunately they didn't bring their brains out in the football field, and they just handed the ball over, gave away penalties, and Brisbane went bang, 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 and it was about 18-0.
Mind you, it's one way to try and put a great attacking side off. Steve Roach alongside Peter Louis, so a few onlookers today.
It's interesting to see Peter Louis here. Lives at the Central Coast, and he's already played Manly and St George, so I suppose he's not getting anything in that regard.
No. And this season,
maybe
you only play most of them once, don't you?
Well, he'll play Manly again, because Manly and North are in the same group, but I suppose he's just out enjoying a great day at the footy. Nice sunny day, beautiful day in the peninsula, God's country.
Matthew Ridge, 38 out of 45 for 84%. Right in front, he doesn't miss them from here. He hasn't missed that one. First points on the board, the secure boot. Matthew Ridge and Manly lead 2-0. Just a couple of minutes gone, but already a number of penalties conceded by St George. 2-0 the penalties. It hasn't been a very convincing start by the Dragons. Manly in possession, St George giving away penalties, missing a couple of tackles and showing some, well, undiscipline. Goldthorpe's kick higher this time. Barnhill leading the chase downfield. Ridge takes it well to Carroll. And Carroll trapped 18 metres out from his line. So a better result from the kickoff, at least that time, for St George. Kosef goes up the middle. I believe that the correct pronunciation is Kosef, not Kosef, because his sister-in-law complained on radio, didn't she, Jacko?
Over. let us know the right pronunciation, and if anyone pronounces it differently,
she'll come after them.
Well, I'll come after you, Bob.
Is that Cobar or Cobbar?
Just short of halfway.
Gee, you're a lovable larrikin, Beardy.
We love him. Here's Carroll. Up to the 5th tackle, just over the halfway line. Hasler in a dummy half. Ridge. Lions had to go back for it. Now Hill, they're a little flat-footed. Hill gets the kick away. There was nowhere to go running it. And Quinn taking a while. And Hancock quickly approaches to make the tackle. And Manly trying to throw it, but the pressure didn't lock them up back near the halfway. Terry Hill did the right thing in the end. Here's Priddle on his own 20. Orford gets it away from Carroll and away from another tackle as well. That was Menzies. An elusive run from Jeff Orford. Made a few miss. Stepping well, left and right. Slow play the ball, and Orford fighting to play it quickly, or quicker than he was allowed to, by Gillespie and Cunningham.
A little bit of frustration, I think, at the fact that Orford beat so many players. Owen Cunningham in there, Dave Gillespie trying to pull him off, and the penalty being given.
And they find touch just inside the Manly half. Goldthorpe will come up to take the tap. Jason Stevens runs at Lyons. He goes low, makes a good tackle. 2 balls on the field. The referee just holds up play for a moment as Hill gets rid of it. And away we go again. Bradley won off the ruck. He gives it to Heron. Second tackle play. You've got a centre and a winger taking it to centre field. Brown to Priddle. Priddle up the middle. Well tackled low by Cunningham. Steaming ahead was Tony Priddle. They go the same way. Stevens tried to drag them in.
Strange sort of play, Warren. I mean, you had Heron as a right winger, and he came in and took the second ruck off that tap kick and took it to centre field. Quite strange. I thought they'd hit it back after that, but there's a penalty, St George, and they need it.
Yeah, holding down Mark Carroll, just hands on the Dave Gillespie around the legs, hands on the back of the St George player. They'll have a shot for goal. But this is Eddie Ward's pet hate. We saw the last game he did, I think, it was Brisbane St George. He penalised everybody holding down in the play the ball, and looks like he's on the same gig today.
Well, the penalties are now 2-all, and players gone from one end of the field, Manly's way, to put the goal over. Now it's come back up on penalties, back up the other end, and it's St George's chance to even the scores with Ian Heron. Heron has kicked 3 out of 6. He's spent some time in the lower grades this season, but is up in first grade now. Only a 50% rate from his first grade shots. Wayne Bartram was taking the shots at goal earlier in the season as the more regular first grader and had 88% on the board. In fact, he's still the leading point scorer for the Dragons. Heron, who keeps bouncing back to first grade, gets dropped, but then always seems to work his way back in again. And this is off the upright back. Carroll can't quite handle it. Has he knocked it on? No, he's held on. No, referee says it was knocked on by Mark Carroll.
I think you find he might have got a call from one of his touch judges there, Warren, if it was. It was a good call, because I've got no doubt, even without looking at the replay, it's pretty game to make a prediction without looking at the replay, but I think it was propelled forward here. Here's the kick here. Off the post. Yeah, certainly. Good decision.
So George ball, Mundine goes wide and runs at Lyons. This will be a fascinating duel between the 19-year-old Mundine and the 34-year-old Cliffy Lyons. And St George are only 10 metres out here with 4 more tackles to come. Brown. Goldthorpe. Inside is Priddle. Running the angle. Tight in the middle, though, with Gillespie. Stevens goes to the line. Brown out of dummy half. Reaches for the line and lost it. Eddie Ward checks, says it was lost forward. Very quick out of dummy half, Brown, but so too is Lyons, dashing back up to the 20.
Yeah, we saw him score a try that won a game against Canberra a couple of weeks ago, but here go the Eagles. St George all offside. Eddie Ward not awarding a penalty. Here's Nathan Brown, he goes, comes off his left foot, just reaches out. Well, geez, not much in it, was there?
Peter, I got no doubt that play was work for you. Did you notice Jason Stevens, when he took the ball up, he was practically on his knees for a quick play of the ball, and then Nathan Brown was going to follow with a dart for the try line. It was good play by Saints.
Forward pass here by was Hasler getting it away to Hormono, and it was just forward from the dummy half. But Manly making a couple of errors inside their own half here. Unlucky, I suppose, the knock-on from Carroll that almost led to a try. Now a forward pass gives St George another chance. 40 metres out with Mundine. Thought it was a penalty for a moment as Bradley. It was a penalty. Eddie Ward had gone across and was waving the Manly backs back from that scrum. Now another outbreak. Pushing and shoving. Bradley has the ball. Hopewadi has a few words to say.
Yeah, plenty of feeling out there, Warren. St George, there you see in the background, Mark Corn and Terry Hill having a bit of a what for. Now Matthew Ridge in the tackle. The whistle had already gone. Not much in that, just a little bit of facial massaging. A bit of a talk to by Eddie Ward, but a little bit of feeling out there. Both physical sides, both competitive football clubs wanting to win games.
Now the first penalty was from the scrum, but is there going to be a penalty from this incident? Eddie Ward comes back, awards the penalty, but it's a differential, so no shot at goal allowed. I just wonder whether... I saw Eddie Ward looking as if he was going to give the penalty from the scrum, but he seemed to allow play to go on.
Yeah, he was looking for the advantage, but he was always going to give a penalty. Manly way up offside.
Now Goldthorpe will take the tap 20 metres out. Coyne has Heron coming around from the wing, spins it out to Brown. Another long pass for Mundine from one side to the other. Mundine looks inside. They can't give him any room. 18 out. Smith a dummy half. Stevens keeps it going. Now they swing it to the far right-hand side. Using the full width. It's Goulet waiting out there. Back inside to Goldthorpe for the line. Hasler was a crossing cover. Great tackle. Danny Moore there as well. Coyne out of dummy half is close. Only inches short.
Huge numbers on the left.
Brown calls for it. Long pass, but they had to wait for it. Mundine, men inside and out. Goes to Bradley. Hill waits for him, but a lovely tackle inside comes from Kosef, 10 metres out. Brown. Goulet took a look and lost the ball and destroys what was really building into a fine set of six. Aren't they using the full width of the paddock?
Yeah, great width from the St George side, but those long balls, they're just not the go, I don't think. Anyway, there's another long ball. What happens when you throw long balls, you give the opposition time to adjust onto your attackers, and instead of putting it through the hands and sucking the defenders in, they just get a chance to slide over, and a lot of the times you run out of space, don't you, Peardy?
Couldn't agree with you more, Peter. Just a waste. It just gives them something to aim at. He's far better just using the man outside. He can run across field. You can run inside him, decoy, and still put the ball outside as Manly go wide with Hill.
And Hill tries to push off Bradley, and now it's Hancock over halfway. Menzies inside. Menzies chased by Barnhill. Got rid of him. Beat Heron. What a try to Stephen Menzies. An absolute gem. An absolute beauty from Menzies. All started by Hill and Hancock. But Stephen Menzies still had a lot of work to do when he got the ball near halfway. He has fended and stepped around 2 or 3 more men. Scored a superb try, and it's Manly 6, St George 0. And look at this try. They had plenty of people here, Manly, but they used them well. Lyons gets it to Hill. He pushes away from Bradley, who came again, but Hancock positioned himself beautifully inside, very fast. Orford couldn't haul him in. Down to the fullback Quinn, inside to Menzies. 2 of them chasing. Barnhill really should have made that tackle. Heron coming from the far side, wrong-footed, and there were no more scrambling defenders. It was Menzies cantering in.
Yeah, great work here by Terry Hill. You watch him cop one from Graham Bradley in the melon here. Bang, there it is. Keeps his presence of mind, gets a good one-hander away to Hancock. Hancock goes inside. Now, what's great fend by Menzies? Poor old Chook Heron, he had Buckley's, and Stephen Menzies. What can you say about this kid? He's just a star, an absolute star.
He's got the body of a second rower and the speed of a centre. Tremendous football by the 21-year-old, and Ridge adds the extra point. So St George, who have had a couple of opportunities, good field position, failed to score. Manly turn it right around to lead 8-0.
Yeah, Warren, this has almost come out of the blue, really, because look at the St George defence numbering off. That's fair. I think it's Goldthorpe opposite. Now that Bradley was a little bit slow to get hold of Hill. That's his best side of the field, of course, the right-hand side, and he's got a good right-hand flick off with the ball, but Hancock showed his good skills by coming inside. What can you say about this fella? He's just got tremendous strength, tremendous drive around the hip area.
Dave Barnhill missed the tackle badly. I wonder whether he and Orford became a little confused as to who was going to make the tackle because they've both missed him.
Yeah, I think Orford didn't lay a hand on him, Warren. It's a pity because he did his best to try and track Hancock, and he knew Hancock was going to draw the fullback.
Cunningham rips in. The metres gain because of that try, really. And the early dominance, Manly all the way, even though St George have had a bit of field position and plenty of time in possession, 53%.
Tony Smith remonstrating to the referee, but unfortunately was offside. In fact, Eddie Wood actually warned them to stay out of it, and they went up regardless, so the penalty had to go to the Manly side.
It's interesting, you look at that stat there on metres gained, and you say, but St George have been down that end of the field, but St George have been getting the ball on around the 35 and finishing it with it on the 20, even though they've been camped at the other end of the field, but Manly have taken it from one end of the field to the other twice. Here's Homono. This is dangerous for St George. They have to stop Manly here and now. All of a sudden, Manly very hungry, slipping passes, running into the gaps. Ridge. Carroll. Slammed to ground by Barnhill. Ball and all. 15 out. Lions. KG Lions inside to Homono, and Hasler was inside just waiting for one more pass. Last tackle, 5 metres out. Ridge. To Lyons, pops a lovely ball, but Menzies can't handle. Smart work by Cliff Lyons, just tried to get the hands down low to pop the pass up, but may have still been a little low for Menzies.
Oh, I think Cliffy was looking for a kick, and unfortunately the pass went to Matthew Ridge. Bit of misunderstanding. And they just tried to come up with some miracle play here. Menzies was going to try and flick it out the hill, but unfortunately dropped the ball, but Manly have turned it around the last 5 or 10 minutes.
Penalty against Hill. Not getting away from Brown quick enough.
Well, on that little piece of play, here it is here, with the Terry Hill at fault there, but that little bit of piece of play with Terry Hill and the winger Hancock. I mean, I know clubs, Peter could comment on this, there's clubs working on, say, 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, just trying to put someone into space. And just by running wide and turning it inside, you can do that because Hill committed 2 players.
Yep, and here's Mark Coyne. Already 7 penalties in the match, but you're right, John, you're seeing these days a lot of wingers or centres just running wide. The sole intention really is to get the man back inside, isn't it?
Yep.
Here's Lyons racing up on Brown. He couldn't make the tackle. Still on the halfway. Riddle to Goldthorpe. Bradley now. Talking about, there's an offload from Goldthorpe to Stevens, and he slips a nice pass back to Smith. Good unloading in heavy traffic by St George. Plenty of defenders around, but the passes are finding the support. Priddle up the blind side to Barnhill. Crunching tackle over the top from Menzies. Priddle gets it back. Goldthorpe. Smith. Chance on the far side. Heron wanted a kick, and that has been dropped. Heron was camped on the far touchline. He was just praying that someone inside would kick because Hopewadi was 30 metres away.
Yeah, Tony Smith just out to Goulay, who drops it. Second time Scotty Goulay has come up with the drop today. But St George, they're moving the ball laterally, but they're not going forward with the football. What happens when you do that is it might look good and you might make a few breaks here and there from keeping the ball alive, but the Manly defensive line is always set. So you go left, you go right, they're there, ready to tackle you.
Now here's Hill and Bradley having another duel. The only thing I will say, Jacko, I agree with you for the most part that the long passes just stop the man-on-man mark-up, but if you go, say, 2 wide passes and they're crisp and they're out in front, if you've then got the runner really hitting it, almost the change of pace, like a Goulay, which they did try to do, can work. Maybe this man, Gordon Tallis, can achieve the break, but so far isn't really coming for St George. Hasler. Kosef. Lyons. Pops it up for Ridge. Mundine's got him, but can he put him down? With some help from Barnhill, he can. On halfway, 5th tackle. Hasler, dummy half. Kosef trying to find a runner. Pass was forward. He was searching for a runner, wasn't he?
Oh, well, he's got great skill, Nick Kosef. He's had a terrible run with injuries. He's had 2 knee reconstructions. Huge raps on the young guy. Came across when Graham Lowe was here. I'm pretty sure he dummies. He sees OJ Cunningham running into that hole, but that was a metre forward.
Peter, had he run a little bit faster towards that hole, he might have been able to slip that ball around the back.
St George, 40 metres out.
Great depth in the back row, Manly. Just incredible depth.
And they've got Danny Gartner to come back from injury next week. Scott Gourlay rested, maybe hauled off because he's dropped the ball twice. Ryan Smith might think he needs to settle down and have a think about it. Now Priddle, who has been working hard, Tony Priddle. He's a big, tall man. I think he might be able to get his arms free. He can offload around the back. Mundine accelerates. Coyne, Tallis, Brown. And there was plenty of defenders around. It wasn't much better than a hospital pass. Goldthorpe, Stevens. Jason Stevens is taking on the line. Not slipping too many passes, though. Last tackle, Goldthorpe. Kicks wide. Heron is there to jump. Loses it. Moore has it for Manly. Jacko, St George seem to be definitely playing to a plan, which is to move it out wide, but they don't seem to have the men running onto it hard enough.
Here's the kick here from Goldthorpe. Great kicker of the ball. Took Heron, he goes up high. Actually got to it first, but couldn't come up with the catch. Danny Moore comes down with it.
Hill comes back inside.
Yeah, I've got no doubt, Warren, they are working to that plan. What I think they're doing is trying to move the Manly forwards around. Blokes like Carroll, Gillespie, trying to get them a little tired, but I think you've got to go forward before you can go lateral in this game. Otherwise, as I said, the defensive line never is in a situation when they're under pressure. They're always in a good straight line coming at you. And the situation you want to be at is get them in a straight line, but going backwards.
Ridge kicks deep. It's a great kick. It's deep. It's towards the corner post. And right near that sideline for Chris Quinn, who hasn't seen much of the action so far, but he steps well there. And he sent Cliff Lyons going the other direction. And what a great run from Chris Quinn up to the 40. From near the corner post to the 40-metre. What a game.
Super run, but ordinary miss by Cliffy Lyons. And Cliffy, I think he might have copped an elbow, but they had a great opportunity there, Manly. St George 2 metres out from their own line. Simple tackle, and they had them under all sorts of pressure. And look at them now, but there's another turnover. And another one.
Stevens juggled it backwards. The referee said it kept going back, even though there were hands grasping. 6 more. Bradley has it knocked out of his arms by Hill. The referee rules forward and a knock forward as Hill stalks away like a heavyweight boxer who's just knocked his man down.
Oh, there's plenty of feeling between Terry Hill and Graham Bradley. Don't worry about that.
Jeff Doobie looks like a movie star on the sideline. A few weeks out of the game, looks fresh-faced and ready to go. Should be very keen to get back on the field. That says something for Manly's performances that they've been doing it without him, because in the first few games of the year, he was red hot. Hasler to Lyons. And almost intercepted by Mundine. That's a knock-on. Or is it? Yes, it is. In fact, I wondered on the previous one, when Hill came up on Bradley, whether in fact it was knocked on by Bradley.
Yeah, Anthony Mundine, just a chance for an intercept there. He couldn't hold on to it. So the Manly side will get another 6 tackles. They won't be too dirty about that.
Questions have been asked many times when you're playing against Cliff Lyons. How do you try to defend against him as Kosef breaks from the scrum? But how do you? Do you chase him, or do you try and say he's yours and I'll stake the men inside? What do you do? One thing you don't do is take his dummy.
No, well, you don't chase him, I don't think either. That's what he wants you to do. I think you've just got to keep your line and let Cliffy play his football before he gets to you. Once he's had players coming out of the line or players chasing across field, there's knock on by Manly, and Owen Cunningham, I think he's not happy about that decision. When you start chasing Cliffy across field, he turns a guy inside, and if your inside defenders aren't working hard, there's a hole there. And once you come out of the line at him, he does exactly the same. He'll just say, come with me, sucker, and he'll put a bloke in the hole.
He's still very quick too. Bradley inside. Quinn. Mundine was waiting, but just as well he didn't pass.
He's just an incredibly competitive person, Cliff Lyons. Doesn't matter whether you're playing the card machines, pool, golf, ping pong, anything, he wants to beat you. He just can't sit still.
We'll hear more from Cliff Lyons at half-time. We gave him the video camera during the week. Now penalty, and there's been plenty of interruptions. A few drop balls in the last few minutes. Now another penalty. One of the Manly blokes has blown up, and referee Ward calls up Matthew Ridge, and is going to tell him to, or is it in fact maybe Ridge as captain is up there. 6-3 the penalties now to the Dragons.
There's been plenty of in 21 minutes.
Well, Mono must have said a few words here. Or is it because of this tackle?
He's trying to roll them on their back. Warren, you can see Homono there trying to get Stevens on his back. Once the tackle's completed, they want players to clear the area as soon as possible.
I had the feeling one of the Manly players gave a bit of lip as well, because they seemed to be walking away, and then Eddie Ward turned around and calls the captain up. St George with twice as many penalties as Manly, 35 metres out, and it's Stevens, straight and hard this time. Well tackled by Menzies. Went low with Carroll coming in second man. A bit of indecision there as Bradley finally gives it away to Heron. There's that centre winger combination, and Heron, the right winger, playing from the left-hand side. Tallis. Danny Moore got his legs. 15 out. St George with Mundine shopping around. He finds Priddle inside. Crowd roaring for a forward pass. Almost was right. Goldthorpe gives it to Bradley. Back to Goldthorpe. Short pass for Brown. And he's sandwiched Carroll, Kosef and Gillespie. What a welcoming committee. Fifth tackle. Quinn puts it up into the in-goal area. Ridge is there. Heron's there too. Very high. It's on the ground. A race for it. It has it come forward from the St George hand from Heron. Yes, it has. A scrambling, desperate effort there from Mark Coyne. Heron was up challenging earlier.
There's the kick. Matthew Ridge, he seems uninterested. Chook goes up incredibly high, Chook Heron. And, well, Coyne probably didn't get the ball down. In fact, he wasn't forced. Let's have a look at it from this angle.
Could be just
look
as
a
well,
bit closer.
I thought it might have come off Ridge's hand.
Now, there goes Heron. No, I think it came off Heron.
Just prior to that, Warren, that was a great save by Gillespie on Goldthorpe. Tremendous tackle. Nailed him in his tracks.
Tell you what, he's playing some great football in his the twilight of his career, Dave Gillespie. He's been in a real form player this year for the Seagulls.
Yeah, on both sides of the ball too, Peter.
Yeah.
Let's have one more look at this. Who did it come off?
Oh, you're right, Warren.
Top Ridge's hand, so if Coyne had got this down, it would have been a try. Papawati just got a boot in there. There's Tallis. So David got that blinder he had against Norths. And still showing that he's very, very capable footballer. Last year started out in the Origin series, was dropped later in it, but just shows he's still a quality player. Priddle not far out, pops it up, but that was a risky pass. And no wonder they couldn't pull it down. Menzies almost had a hand on Tony Smith. Touch and go whether he arrived first.
Yeah, there's Tony Priddle, a speculator, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose that's a fair call, Warren, too. Menzies was right on Smith's shoulder. But in saying that, it was a speculative pass, and it would have been a classic that came off.
Lions got away from Mundine for a moment, but not for long, as Tallis got away from the scrum to help out. Kosef. You say potato. Yes, Homono. How do you say Homono?
However you like, Warren.
Gillespie. Hasler. Homono crashes his way up towards halfway. 8 points to 0 in favour of Manly. A little kick from Lions, but Quinn has got it covered. And Cunningham has got him covered with Hill. 27 minutes of play gone. Manly with a try and 2 goals, leading 8-0. St George have gone close to scoring a couple of times. So far the Manly defence has held them out. Tallis, who came on to replace Goulet at around the 15-minute mark. Priddle up to halfway. Goldthorpe was backing him up. Priddle had his right arm almost free. Brown, little dummy inside. Now he puts Barnhill into space. But it was a very short-lived space. Good reading of the play by Menzies and Cunningham in defence. Now Brown's kick. Ridge is hobbling a little as he comes across to that. Orford is there in defence.
Well, and that's an area that Manly be wary of. Nathan Brown starting to do a few things out of dummy half, running out of dummy half, dummying inside, picking up support players. He could be a real problem if you don't have your markers working.
Ridge down again. He didn't look good before he was tackled. That's a high tackle from Smith on Hill. Hill hard onto that pass, very straight. And Smith certainly crept up around the hedge. How bad was it? That's what's going through Eddie Ward's mind.
Well, as he talks to Smith, Matthew Ridge down with the trainers, the Manly trainers, and he looks in all sorts of strife, Matthew Ridge, captain of the side. Don't need him out for a month or so, but he does look in trouble. He's a tough character, Matthew Ridge. Yeah, he doesn't look real good.
Interesting that on the bench for Manly today, they have Matt Dunford and Jack Elsgood. Originally, the reserves, the fresh reserves, were Hormono and Dunford, two forwards. But with Hormono going into the side, Elsgood is the reserve. Ridge is off. This was where Ridge was injured after he took a kick off and rode in the ground. I think he was already hurt even before that, and that just made it worse. Just inside the St George half, and it's Carroll romping up the blind side. He bumps Coyne away. Jack Elsgood gets a rare taste of first grade. Rare these days, anyway.
He'll be on the right wing, Warren, and Craig Hancock will play fullback. Pretty handy customer, Craig Hancock.
Elsgood, who was the boom winger 2 seasons back. Menzies taken by Tallis. He lost it sideways. It's play on with Cunningham, and it's 6 more tackles. Knocked out by a St George hand. Hasler steps, taken by Mundine. Brown comes in with the bear hug. 20 metres out. Gillespie goes one way, Cunningham goes the other. Fighting to get his arms free as Hancock backs up, and he's swung away by Goldthorpe. Unnecessary by Noel Goldthorpe. Lyons looking for the chink. Runs around 3 St George players and a few Manly players. Back to Elsgood now, and they've lost 10 metres. Cliff Lyons fooled everyone, including his teammates that time. That's the way he plays.
Tell you what, for every 10 metres he might lose, he makes about 100.
22 out, last tackle coming up. It's Lyons. He kicks across towards Heron, looking into the sun, and he's lost it backwards. Quinn could have got it. Manly have. There's a knock on there from Manly. This was very interesting. The knock on from Manly. Did it follow a St George knock on?
There he is, Ian Herring. Leaves the ground. There's no need for him to leave the ground on that occasion. Chris Quinn actually knocks the ball on, and I think there was a little Manly knock on there as well.
And Manly have got the feed. Good call by Eddie Ward, and a great attacking position for the Sea Eagles. 10 out. Hasler puts it in. Thinks about going the blind side. Goldthorpe cut him off there. Lyons feeds it up to Terry Hill, and he goes straight through them. Hill just busted him. Simple as that. This is no frills, this is pure power. And a missed tackle that someone is going to hang their head for. Manly 12, St George 0. But they've come to the open side eventually here, and Cliff Lyons just picks out Terry Hill, and he goes into the space between Quinn and Bradley. There were 2 Manly runners, admittedly, that just put some hesitation in the mind of the defence. Yeah,
it was just an ordinary. Kevin Waller scored a try like this a couple of weeks ago when they played the Chris Quinn's the man of fire. I mean, look at that for an attempted tackle. It's just not good enough. It's just not a first-grade standard. We'll probably get a better look at it from here. Terry Hill, he's a big character. That's how you hit a hole, but, I mean, that's not a tackle, is it? That's just threw his arm out.
Well, you're blaming Quinn on the inside or Bradley on the outside?
Well, I think
neither were much good, but
Chris Quinn's attempt was pretty ordinary. He didn't put himself in much of a position to make the tackle. So, put it down to a bit.
I think it was, I've got to say, I think it was more Bradley's man in the end, but either way, they didn't communicate and they didn't hit. I mean, in that situation, you've got to take someone out. Cliff Lyons has taken the shot for goal because Ridge is off the field. It's a bit wide, Cliffy. They'll have to decide whether you get a second shot. It's a great try to Manly, nevertheless, to Terry Hill, and they lead 12-0.
Let's just see how St George will line up here in defence. There's Hasler shooting one way, and then the long pass to Lyons. He took the ball to the line, and there's Quinn with the inside man. Graham Bradley was marking Terry Hill, should have come in and just creamed him, but Terry Hill just showing what you can do if you run into a hole.
In that situation, Petey, you just got to take someone, haven't you? I mean, you know, they're going to bust you if you don't go in full-blooded for a tackle on someone.
Exactly, Warren. Well,
you know, if you give away a penalty for tackling a man without the ball, they're 10 metres out from your line. You've got to hit someone.
Well, St George got possession here, but gone over the sideline. I just think if you're going to run into a hole, you've got to run into a hole. And that's the problem. There's a problem with Nathan Brown.
Just said a few words to Eddie Ward, and Eddie didn't appreciate it.
A few words said between Bartram and Gillespie as well.
Eddie's looking quite fiery out there today. He's demanding that the players quieten it down, both in terms of getting off the tackle player and also not giving any lip. Lyons gives it out to Hancock, and he beats the tackle of Goldthorpe, or Quinn, I should say. Kosef. Hasler out of dummy half. He might be playing half back, but he's the dummy half in attack, except from the scrum. Dunford into the action as Barnhill swings an elbow back at Carroll, who was holding on to him from behind. Carroll was really just as much an innocent bystander. Lucky he didn't pop it in the face the way Peter Ryan did from Stevens.
Warren Kosef, Nick Kosef, his Lyons kicking over the top, failed to gain or regain possession, but that Kosef, I think, could make a very good front row with the use of the ball in a couple of years' time. He's really showing the ball well.
Well, Lyons has looks like a boot as he was laying in the play the ball area. The referee's given the penalty against Cliff Lyons for not clearing away.
Plenty of feeling in this match, Warren. Cliffy he kicks him with his left foot, and I suppose you'd have to say, you'd like to say that was accidental. The replay actually perhaps suggests it may not have been accidental.
7-4 the penalties now in favour of the Dragons, who must be still smarting from losing 61-0. Maybe that's the reason for some of the aggro out there. 61-0 last season at the hands of Manly. Bradley pushes away from Carroll, plays it back. It's Priddle now. Nathan Brown waving his men forward. Bartram. Carroll went flying through the air. It may have been an attempted shoulder charge that missed as Gillespie made the tackle. 20 metres out, and the mistake by St George gives away possession. Kosef. Hancock knocked over.
Yeah, just a terrible play the ball from Wayne Bartram. Too busy about Mark Carroll and David Gillespie trying to be tough.
So 18 errors now by St George. Ten missed tackles by the Dragons. There's Hills, he's certainly making a miss. Lyons. And Osgood had just overrun him, he couldn't pass it. Hasler skirts wide. Nice ball, some open space for Hancock. He rips straight into the hole, looks for Hopewadi. They wasted an opportunity there, whether Hancock went through the hole or gave the pass immediately. They had 3 against 2.
Thought it may have been on his inside, actually.
Now Elsgood straightens up. Halfway through, Gillespie was marked on the inside. Riddle was chasing front rower on front rower. Last tackle coming up now. Numbers out wide. Cunningham gets it away. Keeps it going now. Kosef. Moore. Hit hard, and Heron dives on the ball. Good tackle. Hit Danny Moore. Caused the error. Just didn't pick up who actually hit him, but he hit him hard in the tackle here. Was it Heron coming in off the wing? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, good hit by Ian Heron.
He had to make it because his winger was therefore unmarked.
Gee, I like this Nick Kosef style. As I said, we haven't seen a lot of him due to injury, but huge raps on him all his career. And gee, I like his style with the football. He can run it, but he can pass it as well. He's got great hands. Looks like a 5'8" playing in the back row.
Is Brown with a dummy, forward pass to Tallis. Very smart piece of work, but just a touch forward. Tallis was there, he was sniffing for it. And here it is.
Not
Touch
much
forward.
in it, yeah. Not much in it, but good decision. Eddie Wood right on the spot.
Talk about the skill of Kosef and talk about the skill of the back rowers, Menzies and Kosef, but then you've got Roberts to come back and Danny Gartner. Very skillful, tough players. The kick from Lyons for Hancock. There's no one back there. Hancock is racing. He's in front of Barnhill. It's over the net ball line, though. Just a touch too long.
What about the pace Dave Barnhill showed then? That was an incredible chase by him.
I just wonder whether Hancock had kept behind Lyons as he kicked it. It was very close.
Yeah, he was onside, but Hancock is a real quick winger, as you saw by that first try, and Barnhill matches it with him for 50. He was only about a half a metre behind him, over 50 metres, so it's a great effort from the back rower. Although the ball did run dead, you know, they're the sort of things that, you know, really show you what sort of players are putting in what sort of effort, and Barnhill, he'll be pleased, and Brian Smith will be pleased with that effort.
Earlier we saw Cliff Lyons try the kick as he ran out of dummy half. As the pass comes back inside, it's been lost by St George. 6 more. I thought that was lost by the Dragons. We saw it differently, and now another blow up, and now it's on. Cunningham and Priddle are throwing it left and right. Plenty of them too. And just about everybody has come to join in, at least to pull players away. Right on the sideline. Peter, you better duck.
I'm right in the middle of it there, Warren.
Put your hands up, hit the deck. Looks like Goldthorpe. Who was that near you, Petey? Goldthorpe and someone. They're over the side, over almost into the crowd. Orford comes away from it. Well, we got you the ringside commentator, Petey. What happened? Who was hitting who?
Oh, it was lefts and rights and lefts.
You didn't see a thing, Petey. You're too busy ducking.
Had his eyes closed. Here's Orford. I think it is tackled by Cunningham. Might have been a little elbow came up. Cunningham didn't like it. That's where it started. Was it Orford?
Yeah, it was Orford. I think Owen Cunningham actually, when he just after the replay cut off, then he come in with a little bit of a cheap shot. Orford got up and it was on, but it's been simmering, hasn't it? It's been bubbling and boiling all the first half. There's RJ Cunningham. There's a little bit in there from Orford, and Cunningham doesn't like it. And just there, well, it's obvious you can't see it too much, but the touch jets came immediately into the field of play, and then it was on after that.
As you say, it's been simmering, and what's been going on in a lot of tackles, there have been hands roughing up heads and little elbows and little knees, just nudges here and there, but they are inciting and instigating what's going on. Cunningham's in the bin for 10. Priddle is in the bin for 10. And now Orford is being called over. And a referee's going to call in both teams. He's calling all the Manly players, all the St George players. He's going to lay down the law to all 26 minus 2.
Well, it's been going to happen all afternoon, this. There's no doubt about it. I tell you, I haven't seen this since 1974, an interstate match between Queensland and New South Wales at Lang Park, when the referee called both sides in and spoke to them as a whole. And this is something you do not see very often in rugby league. But I think it's almost necessary because every player's been guilty of a little infringement somewhere today.
Well, remember that he has already called up Matthew Ridge once and warned him as Manly captain for them to settle down. So George have got the penalty after all of that. It's right on half-time here. It's 12-0 to Manly. We'll have another look at all of that in a moment. Stay with the play here. Brown is 20 metres out. The siren hasn't gone yet. Or has it? Goldthorpe goes to the air straight away. The siren has gone. And it's in the end goal. Hasler goes back and toes it dead. And there were 3 or 4 St George players all around Des Hasler as he towed that to kill it. Crowd are hooting.
Here's this incident now, Warren.
Started with Orford and Cunningham.
There's nothing happening there, then it was on.
There's a bit of a push, and that's when Priddle comes racing in, and that's when it really started. Priddle and Cunningham trading blows. All of those other players were trying to break them up. Nobody else was actually throwing punches, but it rolled across towards the fence. And then there was another scuffle over in the back.
Terry Hill was involved, I think, with perhaps Graham Bradley. I'm not quite sure about that, but something we don't need in rugby league, an ugly incident.
Yeah, ugly as tempers finally boiled over on the scoreboard. Manly have scored 2 tries, and they have looked the better side, despite St George. The St George side will have this slight breeze in the second half, but it really is of minor consequence. Kicking didn't play a big part in that first 40 minutes. Both teams with 12 men for the first 8 or 9 minutes of this second half. So there should be some open spaces as Tallis brings it back from the kickoff. Steve Georgalis make an interesting point that St George, he thought, seemed to be doing a little bit better going up the middle. We'll see what tactics they employ in this second half. Debbie, what was the news from down in the dressing rooms?
Well, things are about as tense in the tunnel as they are out on the field. No one's prepared to say very much at all, except Brian Smith did say Graham Bradley's got a broken hand, and Matthew Ridge back on for Manly, even though he has a serious hip injury, and I believe that Terry Hill's carrying a bit of a hip injury as well. But as to what actually either coach said, no one wants to say anything.
Goldthorpe's chasing this through. He's going to win the race to the ball. He's got it. It's a great try by Goldthorpe. What hands to pick that up. That was just superb work by Goldthorpe. Cliff Lyons are standing back upfield, hands on hips, as if to say, where in the hell did that come from? The kick, the chase, and what an immaculate pickup by Goldthorpe at speed to score St George's first try, and what a start to the second half. Goldthorpe goes to the line, chips into open spaces, no fullback home. Where in the hell was the fullback? Goldthorpe had the vision to see it, off the upright, and look at that pickup and placement.
Well, he's quick between the ears, Noel Goldthorpe, isn't he? He spotted that Matthew Ridge wasn't in his position, just trying to find where Matthew Ridge was. He was up in the line, perhaps, involved in that earlier tackle, and as you said, a great pickup, and just great work from Noel Goldthorpe, and that's exactly what Manly didn't need. They needed to get away, kick away from the St George side. St George now, their confidence will be back, and they'll be keen to go on with this now. Heron right in front should add the extras, so we've got a game on our hands again.
After a 4-match suspension, Noel Goldthorpe got Jacko's man of the match last week. That's a great way to put St George back into the hunt for these 2 points. Right in front of the post for Ian Heron. And straight between the sticks and kicks it back into the crowd. 12-6 all of a sudden in favour of the Sea Eagles. If you're late getting back to your TV set after half-time, Goldthorpe's just scored.
And Warren, this was on the back of 4 good go forwards from the kickoff. They really made some ground, the St George forwards, including Quinn too, the fullback. But just Goldthorpe aware enough to put that in behind the line. Good stuff, but very good go forwards in the centre of the ruck.
Ridge kicks into this breeze. Quinn takes it. Tallis, a repeat of the way the second half started. And you would think that if either side was really going to exploit some extra open spaces, because they're a man short, it would be Manly. It's been St George so far. Only 2.5 minutes of play gone in the second half. Stevens is 8 short of halfway. Brown into dummy half. Barnhill runs at Hasler. Hasler went high but then slipped down to tackle him around the ankles. Brown runs himself. He runs at Hasler, slips it away to Barnhill. Goldthorpe now. Gillespie in front of him. Bartram pushed away from Lyons, but Menzies got him, and Menzies hurt a little in that tackle too. Last tackle, kicked through by Bartram into the corner. Back goes Ridge, and right on the goal line. Chasers keep him right there.
Well, he still looks to be struggling a little bit, Matthew Ridge.
Hopewadi is thrown back a metre. Bartram very keen. Coming off the bench. Moore. Danny Moore hasn't seen much ball in this game. He's having a fine season for them. A likely Queensland origin centre.
Well, if they don't pick the Super League players, here's another great tackle by Stevens and Tallis. They don't pick the Super League players. I think Danny Moore's has laid down his air for the Queensland side, and deservedly so.
Hey, that's good defence, Peter. They're really coming off the line, the St George players.
It's lifted them that
really
try.
Nice tackle, and they've pinned him. They've got Hasler on his own 10. In a set of 6, Manly have gone 10 metres and been belted by the St George defence. Well, John, there must have been some revving up at half-time. Couldn't hear anything coming into that tunnel from the St George room.
There was a fair bit of talk. Brian Smith spoke the whole half. I was out the back, Warren. I didn't listen to a great deal, but he was talking for the full 10-minute period.
Now Stevens pops it back to Barnhill. Mundine now. Still only 10 out. Goldthorpe, I think it's come off a St George head to Hopewati for Manly. And he's rolled back into the in-goal area, and referee Ward... No, he does say it's a dropout. I thought he was going to tell him to play it in the field of play.
I think that's a good decision by referee Ward. As he indicates, there actually came off Bartram's head. A nice little header. Maradona would have been proud of that one. And John Hopewati picks up the scraps, and good defence by Gordon Tallis. He's been instrumental in these early minutes. And St George, they've turned things completely around. And perhaps they're, well, I'm not saying it was their tactic, but perhaps a little bit of that unsettling play we saw by half-time, before half-time, may have just taken its toll on the Manly players.
Ridge with the dropout. Just short of halfway. Bartram. He looks at Tallis, but Tallis doesn't want anything to do with it this time. Gives it instead to Quinn. Quinn very fast, and he found a hole that shouldn't have been there. Stevens. Stevens held on to it. He didn't give it to Goldthorpe. Stevens quick play the ball. He was dragged down. He wasn't allowed to play it. He wanted the quick tap. Or I should say, he wanted the quick play the ball. Brown has taken the quick tap. Mundine. 5 out. Real pressure here for Manly. Extreme pressure. Their defence is wilting at the moment. 9-4 the penalties. Certainly going St George's way. Brown goes again for it. And the referee says it's another dropout. Forced in goal by Manly for the second time.
Well, lucky Nathan Brown. He gets up and plays the ball forward. Just can't get his hand. Oh, there wasn't much in it, was there?
Second time that he's been within a whisker of downward pressure for a try in the match.
He's a very clever player, Nathan Brown, as is Noel Goldthorpe, and when they're both playing in this St George side, what a difference it makes. We've certainly seen their performances in recent weeks with the return of Goldthorpe last week and now the return of Brown. Just gives them that bit of variety. Matthew Ridge being called out by referee Eddie Ward.
This may be for time wasting. Because
isn't he dirty, Eddie?
With men in the bin, he doesn't seem too impressed with Matthew Ridge today, does he?
Being the big lecture.
10,500 people here at Brookvale today. Second half not starting the way they expected. It's 12-6 in favour of Manly. Tallis. St George have got to get some points for all this position on the field. They've been inside Manly's 20 now for 5 minutes. Right back was a good one, and Manly have got it. Tremendous work by Des Hasler there. Fair right back. Didn't come a long way from the ruck, but enough. Now, can Manly get out here, or can St George hit them hard again? The mistake by Carroll. Away go the Dragons with Orford. Orford still going. Trying to position someone on his outside there. Mundine. Goldthorpe. Coyne. Inside Moore. That right foot step working. Goldthorpe now. Goldthorpe close. Heron into dummy half. Only a metre out. Backs to the wall for Manly. Bartram. Finds Coyne. Mundine. Mundine with space, and the flick pass intended for Stevens put down Manly's ball. And they weren't awake there. So Mundine tried to flick it out, and or was it Stevens? They just weren't awake to it.
It seemed like they had ample opportunity there, St George. They just couldn't get organised. Here's Mundine. Well, it's actually raked out by Matthew Ridge. Good work not to be picked up. There goes Menzies!
Over his own 20, chased from behind and tackled by Bartram. Just in the nick of time, just getting into stride was Menzies. Now Lyons goes on the attack. Looks out wide, and he's got Hancock. Donnelly makes the tackle. Jason Donnelly has gone onto the far wing for St George. Ridge. And Donnelly comes over the top of him. Ridge has a bit of a look as he gets up and says, how about it? Referee gives the penalty now. What was the penalty for? The marker. The second marker wasn't directly in front. And Jason Donnelly.
He must have gone onto the wing, and Orford must have gone into the centres, I think.
for Bradley.
For Bradley, who's got a broken hand.
I wonder how he broke the hand.
Here we go. Yeah, he got him for markers not being square. It's a blue too. That was the 5th tackle.
All of a sudden, it's Manly back up the St George end. Hill on the line side from that tap. They try to work play back down that narrow side. Carroll. Riddle coming back from the sin bin. Lions. Homono pops it away nicely. Kosef, only 5 out. Nice pass. Penalty against St George. Is someone in the sin bin? Referee Ward pointing at Tallis.
I think he's gone, Warren.
Is this a send-off or a sin bin? Or neither. Coyne is the captain. He's been called over. Well, interfering in a play the ball with Manly right on the attack. And Harry Ward, he's checking Mundine, who's injured. If he's given a penalty, why wouldn't he put him in the sin bin? He's slowing the play the ball down. Manly are on the attack. Isn't that a professional foul?
Beats me, Warren. Have a look at it. He had his foot in there. So Gordon Tallis trying to rake the ball out with his foot. So surprisingly, I suppose the fact that it didn't actually come clear is maybe the reason he wasn't sin bin. Anthony Mundine got a big gash on the top of his head. Look at that. Nasty.
The blood bin for Mundine. He has been scheming away on the edge of the ruck and has looked sharp.
Warren, just a little cheerio to the Temora Beagle boys. They're playing their first game tonight against Cootamundra. And the captain coach of the Beagle boys is Steve Neen, age 48.
Gee, tough man, Steve Neen. 48.
Oh, thereabouts, give or take a few years.
What was the name of the fellow in England? Gratian, wasn't it? Played on till about 50.
Yeah, Jeff Gratian.
Now Ridge close to the posts. Adds 2 points and settles the game down in Manly's favour. Takes them out to an 8-point lead. It's 14-6. And Manly, well, they've conceded 1 try in this second half, but it could have been worse, so they have weathered the onslaught from the Dragons.
Yeah, their defence down on their own line the last 5 minutes has been outstanding. Under a lot of pressure. And actually forced St George into mistakes.
Carroll ploughs back towards the 20. Hasler. Kosef. 25 out now. Well tackled, low. Total tackles, St George 107, Manly 96. Evening up. St George had to do quite a deal of defensive work in the half. Hasler collared by Stevens. There's Hasler going around in circles. Menzies, can he bust them with a hit up? Almost. Took them with him. Brown and Stevens had to hang on. Hasler again, not too sure where to go on the last tackle. Quinn bringing it back. He's made a couple of great runs today, Chris Quinn. Heron in and away with the step. Just short of halfway, 14-6 to Manly. Donnelly fighting to get back into first grade. Tony Smith in centre field. Takes on Hasler. You wonder why he took on Hasler in that fashion. Really just was one-out stuff. He went at him. Didn't seem to be creating anything. Barnhill tries to turn in the tackle to feed the pass back. 30 out, 5th tackle. Goldthorpe kicks back into the sun. Hancock in a bit of trouble. Ridge is undecided. Ridge takes it. Ridge took it well too. He was barreled in the tackle of Orford, but for a moment Hancock and Ridge didn't seem to know who was going for it.
Well, there's a great take by Matthew Ridge. It's one of the best catches of the football we've seen in the Winfield Cup. There's no doubting that. Great under pressure, but a great tackle by Orford as well. And St George this time will be hoping they can turn some of this pressure into points. They've been down here a couple of occasions. Came up empty, so they'll be looking for points in this set of 6.
Tallis. Will he wind up? Doesn't really get into full stride there as he comes back at them. Trying to find a little hole to aim at, but the defence was tight. Quinn. Pops it to Stevens. Well tackled by Hasler. Got down on the ground and dragged Stevens to him. Criddle goes wide. Has his legs whipped out by Cunningham. Brown catches him napping for a moment. Orford not far out. Just a foot short, Jeff Orford. Manly in tight. Goldthorpe gives it 9 yards from coming behind Stevens. The referee says it was a Shepherd. Well, they worked the play deliberately. Were tacklers impeded by Jason Stevens. Penalties going Manly's way for a change.
Well, I suppose you have to say certainly that looks like it must have been Desi Hasler in there was impeded by Stevens, so a good decision by Eddie Ward. It's a good play, that one, but unfortunately on that occasion it wasn't executed just quite properly. I think Bartram had to come a little bit sooner than he did.
Gillespie. Hill wrestling with Stevens. Hasler. Omono. Goldthorpe looked like he was going to steal the ball, and he has stolen the ball. Ripped out. Oh, Goldthorpe, he was all over the football. Whether he was trying to actually pull it out or lock it up, but I mean, again, you've got to say, Omono should have locked that ball up tighter, but Goldthorpe was attempting to strip it. You can't blame the referee for giving the penalty.
Them's the rules.
Ridge. Nice touch, doesn't pick up much more than 12 metres. Danny Moore was the decoy. Might as well have given it to Moore. He hasn't seen the ball in action. Hill on the outside of Orford. Orford goes with him. Terry Hill, has he ever beaten a man on the inside? He always goes to the outside.
That's his strength.
Lions. Solomon Homono knocked over.
I think he's
St
improved.
George 30.
I think he's improved out of sight, Terry Hill, under the coaching of Bob Fulton. I think he's really added some new dimensions to his game. He goes to Matt Gillespie. Menzies will score.
Menzies is there, and that's a great tackle by Quinn. He didn't miss him this time. Only 5 out. Menzies plays it quickly. Danny Moore fumbling a dummy half in the bin as Chris Quinn. Referee Ward saying that Quinn interfered with that play. The ball caused Moore to fumble. So they're down to 12, and St George will do it tough here. Manly go wide. Ridge out of the tackle. Ridge is going to score himself. Matthew Ridge under the posts. We knew St George would do it tough, but I didn't think they would crack that easily. Ridge has just broken out of a tackle. The bust made a moment earlier by David Gillespie. He's very nearly scored. Tackle by Quinn. Quinn in the bin. They brought it back to the right, and in centre field, Matthew Ridge just broke out of a couple of tackles, and not that there was any doubt about it, but he puts it right underneath the black dot.
Here we see Matthew Ridge hits the ball at pace off Cliffy lines. The defence seems to have him covered. Goes for that hole in between Goldthorpe and Barnhill, and David Barnhill just comes up with a shocking miss. And he'd be disappointed. He's a good defender, David Barnhill, but Matthew Ridge shows great strength and determination to go through that hole. And unfortunately for St George, that could be good night, Irene. They really gave themselves a chance early with that try. Then plenty of pressure down on Manly's line, but they couldn't turn it into points. Manly get one go, 4-pointer.
I've really got to question Dave Barnhill. His performances week in, week out, often mixes it up. There's Ridge right in front, puts it between the posts, and it's suddenly 20 points to 6. Barnhill is a very good player, but throws in some misses that are very, very costly. Peardy.
Yeah, and this is just a replay of that incident. There's Gillespie just skipping through a tackle by Goldthorpe. There's Menzies on the fly. Quinn got him. Now, this is the incident where Quinn got 10 minutes. Hanging on. Yes, he knows he's in desperate situation. Yes, he deserved 10 minutes in the sin bin there, but Manly just struggling because of, or St George struggling because of penalties. This is probably the 3rd in a row, and Matthew Ridge getting through a tackle which is completely unacceptable in today's standards.
And those misses happen, just misses and drop balls by Dave Barnhill just mar what would otherwise be a player who would command state of origin level performance, but he just lets himself down. Total errors 25 by St George, Manly 15. To even things up a little, I've got to say Dave Barnhill is leading the tackle count for St George. And alongside him with 17 tackles is Anthony Mundine, the 5'8". Mundine did go to the blood bin. Not back yet. Nathan Brown also 14 tackles for St George. For Manly, it's Kosef with 16, Carroll 13, Cunningham 12. Little kick by Lions, can't regather. And Mundine is back out there. Looks like a bandage on the top of his head. Goldthorpe in possession, just short of halfway. Coyne creates the hole. Speed step from Mark Coyne. And now Bartram as Manly starting to put a few big hits of their own back into the game. And Menzies has popped the boot in the head. Touch judge is in to report it.
Actually, I thought he made contact with his head, Bartram's head against Menzies there, Warren, if we can see that.
The crowd were roaring. The touch judge was on his way.
Well, there's the tackle. Menzies over the top. Bartram's in there. Oh, he's gone in with the head. There's no doubt about that. I don't think he actually got him in the head. It certainly looked like a head-butting motion to me.
It looked like a head-butting motion to me too, but it looked as if he head-butted him in the chest rather than the head. I don't know whether Menzies was playing for the penalty.
When is a headbutt a headbutt?
When is a Liverpool kiss a romantic encounter?
I think some frustration on Bartram's behalf. They probably, well, certainly field position-wise and possession-wise, they've had the better of this half, but Manly have come up with the points. So that's a sign of a good side.
Kosef gets it away to Carroll. Hasler, the Shearer's dog, goes into dummy half and then backs up. Gillespie hits the line on the halfway. 20 points to 6 in favour of Manly. 14 points the lead. Hamono, good run. 20 minutes to go. George not out of it, but they can't afford to let Manly score again. Lions holding it up, gives it to Ridge. Ridge claps on the speed. Away he goes, support from Hill. Also Hancock. Hancock down the touchline, steps inside for the line. Great try, Craig Hancock. Superb winger's try, superb try by anyone, anytime. Terry Hill was trying to back up on the inside, looked like he was interfered with. He was dragged back a little, but Hancock stayed on the outside and went flying down the touchline. But look at the speed here of Ridge. As Lions had plenty of options. He goes to Ridge, who carves his way into space. Good speed from Ridge. There's Hill pulled back by, I think it was Donnelly, but Hancock still had a lot of work to do. Beats Mundine on the inside. Drags Donnelly, it is, over the line, but gets it down.
Oh, there's a great planned move here by the Eagles. Off Cliffy lines, as per usual. Who's running the decoy? There's a couple of decoys. Mark Carroll run a good one, and Matthew Ridge just slices into that gap. Bartram just gets him by the shirt tail, and as you said, Hancock, geez, a fantastic winger, isn't he? He isn't underrated, you're right. He's certainly not overrated, but he's a champion player here. This will get a better look at the decoys. There's Mark Carroll, he takes the player out, and Ridge runs a perfect arc into that hole. Obviously a good planned move. And Hancock does the rest, and we've seen him do this on a number of occasions. One or two players to beat, it's almost a certain four-pointer.
Craig Hancock, 5th try of the season for the 25-year-old. Now, Matthew Ridge from the sideline, looking into that sun. He's kicked 4 from 4. This is the most difficult. If anything is difficult for him, he's missed with the boot. He's a marvel. Matthew Ridge misses, but Manly well and truly going ahead now, 24-6.
Yeah, this is just a play down the back, but Lyons did some good stuff here, as Peter said. The ball dropped in behind, but you'll see Orford. He just turned around there. Orford should have come in on there. There was only one over there. I think Orford should have come in and knocked that movement off. But Craig Hancock, I agree with the earlier opinions of him. I think he's an excellent winger.
And Jeff Orford got a quick caution from the referee for some incident that happened late as that try was being scored. Tony Mundine seemed to get just a little bit too far across, didn't he, in defence?
Most of the teams tend to drift or slide in defence. I think when someone uses a ball out the back like that, I think the outside defence has got to defend in, and I think Jeff Orford should have moved in then. Everyone can take their timing off Orford then.
Hassler out of dummy half, scoots into open space, goes all the way into open space. Now he's chased, and Mundine looked as if for a moment as if he wouldn't catch the 34-year-old Des Hasler. Showed plenty of speed. Lyons gets it away to Kosef. They're only 10 out, but he's lost it. Lyons goes in to scoop it back. A handover on the last. Frank Stanton and Bob Fulton watching on, and pretty happy with the way Manly are starting to rip holes in the St George defence now. So from the look on their faces, not happy with the way the ball was lost at the end.
Where's dashing Des Hasler? To what, 3 or 4 years ago, Des Hasler would have scored that try under the post, but obviously getting older. I think he's actually older than I think Desi could even be 35. So a great effort just to be out there, let alone making those sort of breaks.
Yeah, I wondered when Manly signed him to come back for a season after he went to England last year, whether it was a smart move, but particularly after they lost David O'Donnell, it's proved to be a very smart move.
Well, he's not like your average 35-year-old, Desi. It's a well-known fact that Des Hasler's probably one of the most fittest footballers we've ever seen in the game.
St George chased down towards Ridge in the corner. He's checking Des Hasler. He is 34. 34. Born in February. Dave Barnhill's off.
No footy players give their real age when they get to that vintage, Warren, you know that.
Well, that's a point. Got to give Manly credit for sticking with these guys. Even a couple of years ago, Cliff Lyons, a lot of people were wondering whether that was it for him, and hasn't he played 2 marvellous seasons of football since people thought he should have been pensioned off. Chris Quinn, who is in the sin bin. St George are battling without him. They need every man on deck at the moment. Manly just going a little quiet in this set of 6. Menzies copped a high-ish one from Brown up around the chin. Touch judge is in again. Eddie Ward was going to let it go, but the touch judge feels that it was of more serious nature.
Well, let's have a look at it. Certainly around the neck. And I suppose we've seen players sent off for as much as that, Warren, this year, haven't we?
Yep, I'd say a penalty is sufficient.
Certainly sufficient. I hope it doesn't go any further than that, because it's not worth it.
Cement Gillespie's left the field after making one of the few big busts in his career in this game. He seems to be making more busts the longer he plays.
He does. It's going great.
11-9. Manly have gone ahead in the penalties now after it was all St George in the first half, getting the referee whistle. Ten hit-ups and plenty of tackles for David Gillespie. Up to halfway. Dunford. Now Menzies. St George's defence was being ripped to shreds 5 minutes ago. They just seem to have steadied for the moment. Lyons. Cunningham is out wide on the burst. One of 3 players, I believe, from Manly who have signed with the Super League. Cunningham, Ridge, and
Ian Roberts.
Ian Roberts, that's right. The rest are all ARL aligned. Last tackle, Ridge with the kick. And waiting back in there, didn't come up in the front line, was Jeff Orford. Donnelly. Has the fight gone out of St George? It's 24-6. There's 14 minutes to go. Quinn. Well tackled by Kosef. Brown. Bartram. We haven't seen Scott Goulet come back into the game.
Surprising.
Tallis.
Gordon Tallis has been out there longer than we usually expect him to be too.
Goldthorpe with a high midfield kick. Hancock and Ridge approach each other and crash. Ridge somehow held onto the ball. I'm sure that sun is causing some problems, particularly for Craig Hancock. It's the second time I've noticed that he wasn't too sure who was going for the ball. Ridge has committed himself to taking those bombs. Hancock, no communication between the two of them. No one called for it. And bang, and that's the sort of situation where very bad injuries happen, even on cricket fields. St George player will be cautioned. Eddie Ward's patience must be wearing thin. How many times has he called them up? And Bartram swings over the top.
There. He missed.
And Bartram was complaining that something was happening to him which caused him to throw it, that he was being hit. Someone had a go at him. Hard to see from the replay. Well, St George's tempers, Petty, St George's tempers have been fraying in the last few weeks, haven't they?
Yeah.
Against Brisbane, one or two scuffles last week, certainly today.
Yeah, well, they opened up the second half in good fashion. Warren very determined, enthusiastic, but they're on the end of those few penalties, and then Manly put the ball over the line, and they haven't sort of recovered, have they?
No, they certainly haven't. Elsgood is going to get another run. Moore almost pulled away from Brown.
It's an interesting point you make, Warren, because you did say in the last 3 weeks there's a drop ball from Stephen Menzies, so that'll be a scrum. In the last 3 weeks we've seen St George play against Brisbane. There was a couple of all-in brawls, a number of sightings, albeit there's a knock on there by Menzies, just takes his eye off the football. And then we saw last week once again a couple of scuffles. I'm not pointing the finger at Brian Smith or the St George players, but the fact of the matter is in the last 3 games they played in, there's been plenty of tension, plenty of niggle, and a few biffos as well, so draw your own inference.
Yeah, it's not the usual St George pattern. You have to remember that earlier in the season, Goldthorpe and also Goulet was sent off and suspended. In centre field, running onto the pass.
I think it might be a little bit of
Jeff
frustration. Frustration that they're actually playing some pretty good football, but not coming up with any wins.
Here's Mundine now. So Jeff Hardy's out there in jersey 24, played in reserve grade. Priddle, 12 metres short. St George desperately need not just 1 try, but 2, 3 tries. Hardy, ejected into the game fairly late, 10 metres out. Quinn tries it himself, kicks straight through one player, but Dunford is there to clean up. Matt Dunford did well. The kick went straight past Mark Carroll.
You talk about the depth in the back row, straight through Mark Carroll. Old Spud's playing tunnel ball, and Matty Dunford. Talking about the depth the men have in the back row. They're pretty well off in the front row as well, with Gillespie, Carroll, Dunford, and of course Ian Robinson play up there as well. So they've got 4 real good front rowers in the club, and probably 6 real good back rowers. So as far as forwards go, you'd probably say Manly, you know, the most well-endowed club in the division.
Well, Mark Carroll's been dropped from the tunnel ball team. He's off, and David Gillespie, who's only been off the field 5 minutes, is back out there. Carroll is limping a little, might have a slightly corked thigh, maybe just tired. I don't think he's had a break in the match. 15 out though with the Dragons. Another penalty against Manly. In a niggling game of football. The time it was Hasler who pushed Brown over. Brown goes again. A couple of metres out. George fighting to get another try. Goldthorpe juggles, spins, almost runs into referee Ward. Now it's come off the face of Stevens. Well, it's sloppy and it's ragged. And it's not the quality of game that they played last week or in earlier stages of this match. Seem to lack a little bit of direction. Noel Goldthorpe
particularly
looking around.
Particularly when they're on Manly's line. That's about the 4th occasion where they've come up with a drop ball or a bad option when they're attacking Manly's line. A little bit of panic, perhaps.
But again, Pete, you've got to admire Manly's defence. 1 try to St George and was offered kick. It's pretty hard to defend against kicks. So they've held their line intact well.
Yeah, they have. They're a good defensive side.
They're going to be a problem for all attacking sides.
Mainly because of their defence, I think. Yeah.
Last tackle coming up for the Sea Eagles. 24 points to 6 as Ridge gets his kick away. Priddle tried the charge down and he put enough pressure on. Forced the error. Out on the full. St George's ball, 38 metres out. Another chance for them. Still seeking their second try. First try came early in this second half. It looked as if they were about to apply some pressure to Manly. They've got another penalty here against Manly inside the 10. Out it comes. Mundine pops it inside. Quinn has plenty of acceleration, very fast. They need to use him as much as they can. Tallis. It's one area that Manly are clearly superior. Speed. Priddle feeds it back. Coyne scampers across field. The Manly defence closes that side of the field to him. Dunford finally makes the tackle on Goldthorpe. Brown pops it inside. Mundine drops it down, and he should have caught that ball. He'd gone back inside. Stevens put it up. It wasn't the perfect pass. It was clearly catchable.
It was always on, certainly. Well, straight out in front of young Anthony, and he'd be disappointed with that. Great skills. Perhaps thinking about scoring the try before he caught the ball, but that's another mistake. That's 5 times. St George have been attacking the Manly line. 5 times they've come up with mistakes.
This must go close to the best start Manly have ever had to a season. 8 wins in a row.
Well, I think that's probably one of the... Well, Canberra have had 8 wins in a row as well. I remember, I'm not quite sure about this, but there was some sort of a record last year when North scored 7 in a row. So I imagine 8 in a row must be even more of a record, obviously, Peter.
So, but they're not alone, are they? Newcastle are also out there with their best start to the season. So the top quality teams are forging ahead. Canberra undefeated, Newcastle and Manly. Brisbane dropping from that list last night. Another penalty going Manly's way. And look at these penalties, 24 of them in the match now. And Tony Priddle comes over the top. May have pulled that ball loose. It didn't look like it, but it seems to have been the ruling. Hasler with the tap. Cunningham. Manly. Cunningham's lost it. Goldthorpe shovels it quickly. Coyne. Tackled by Moore. Priddle. 38 out, but can they make any headway here? Let's see what St George can do with it. Mundine skirts wide. Hardy comes straight. Took the pass. Back inside, and he gives it straight back to Manly. And Terry Hill, who would very much enjoy that intercept, and now he pushes away at the face of Mundine. Or was that Hill?
Yeah, it certainly
was Hill.
Yeah, I think Terry might have called for that ball, eh? Inside, straight to Terry Hill.
Now Menzies. Manly haven't really cut loose today, have they? They've certainly done enough.
Well, they've been solid in the middle. Mark Carroll, 23 hit-ups before he's been replaced, so he's done his job, as has Dave. Been a good solid performance.
Yeah, as Petty's pointed out a number of times too, their defence has been like a rock. Kosef, Lyons, plenty of runners coming inside on the decoy angle. Menzies was outside. 5th tackle now. Ridge kicks deep. And back goes Quinn. And it's into touch. So this game seems to be winding down. It's been won and lost with 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, nice little kick from Matthew Ridge. Had a fine game. I don't know what they gave him for that hip injury, but whatever it was, I'll have a couple of dozen, thanks. So he come back on, he scored a try, set one up, taken a couple of bombs, kicked a few into touch. Done everything right, kicked a few goals as well, so great second half from Matthew Ridge.
You mean he's taken a couple of high balls, Peter?
What did I say?
Taking a couple of bombs.
Yeah. Geez, you're a lovable larrikin, aren't you, Petey?
Now, St George, can they go from one end of the field to the other in the remaining couple of minutes? Goldthorpe floats it out to Coyne. Coyne brushes away from a couple. It's a bad pass. Hopewadi chased by Mundine. The goose step, well, a half a goose step. 9 metres out. Maybe it's the Manly who can get it up to 30 points with a converted try. Priddle come racing up. He's still charging downfield, and he's got the ball, Tony Priddle. Well, that's a tremendous effort. He was one player who wanted to chase. He ran 30 metres to come up with that loose ball. Goldthorpe puts the kick through. Heron is chasing. Moore looks over his shoulder, but it's going to beat them into touch. Danny Moore suddenly was worried that he might be beaten for pace. He's got his hands on his head. Looking a little tired late in the game.
As you said, both teams almost bundied off, really, haven't they, Warren? Nice and lackadaisical for this last couple of minutes. St George can't win it.
St George having to do a lot of work now in this second half. They're up to 182 tackles, and it was just a few more at half-time. Now it's 60 more.
Well, that's just holding the ball, isn't it?
Manly have the tough draw ahead of them. They're about some good sides. Oh, bad pass. Elsgood picks it up, though. It went forward. Was it a forward pass or a knock-on? Either way, Eddie Ward.
He's ruled the knock-on, but I actually don't think there was a hand in that. But at this stage of the game, you probably cop that one on the chin.
Manly, you would think, are going to be a good side. I mean, they are a good side, and they'll be a better side with Tuvey, Roberts and Gartner also to play a part.
Particularly Jeff Tuvey, I believe, for Manly to win the premiership, they have to have Jeff Tuvey at his best, and if he can regain the form we saw early in the season, Warren, they're a big chance.
Coyne stepping. And there's a full-time siren. Last chance for St George. Goldthorpe, little kick into the end goal. Back goes Hopewadi, cleans it up. And Manly's line has only been crossed once in the match. And that was a sneak attack from Goldthorpe in the first minute of the second half. Apart from that, their defence has been impenetrable. Their attack has been as sharp as it needed to be. St George, in the first half, took it to them. It was 8-0 to Manly at half-time, and at full-time, Manly, too good, far too good, 24 points to 6.
Manly versus Canterbury at 7:30 in Parramatta Stadium.
Players shaking hands, and what really was a fairly spiteful game. The last 20 minutes, all the fire went out of them once the game was decided, but before that, quite a bit of pushing in the face, a few punches thrown, a lot of scragging in tackles, 2 men in the sin bin, and that took the flow out of the game. For a while, it looked as if it might have turned things around St George's way, but Manly had too much class in the end.
Well, their defence was great, Warren, on their own line, but in saying that, St George just came up with some terrible mistakes. They couldn't convert the pressure into points. And in the